And now for our feature presentation.
You're listening to the JB and Goldwater Show. Live, loud, and online. Hosts, Jamie Bradford and Darren Goldwater.
All right, greetings and a good Wednesday afternoon, and welcome aboard the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online, 12:02 p.m. It is July the 8th, and we are here until 2 p.m. this afternoon. Darren Goldwater, Jamie Bradford, thank you for listening on the Podbean app. If you are doing so, if you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, we appreciate that. But if you'd like to listen, maybe you're going to be on the road or something like that, and you have not downloaded the app, just download it for free. Podbean, type in our name, and when it comes right up, and you can listen to our program every day live, and you can also go back and listen to previous programs in podcast form. You can also find all of those available in pretty much every podcast platform that is available in the world, essentially, right?
Yeah, sure, the world.
Spotify, iTunes, you name it. We're out there, but live until 2 o'clock today. We'll be joined at 12:30 by J.C. Sherbert. He is the owner of thebigspur.com. He is our weekly guest on this day of the week, and we've got a few things to get to with him. Josh Kendall, who's with The Athletic, actually wrote a really, really interesting column on one of the most beloved and heralded coaches to ever coach football at South Carolina, the original Man in Black. Joe Morrison, who led South Carolina into that Black Magic season and the Fire Ant defense, and they were up to number 2 in the country and all that type of stuff. An incredibly well-written column on what if Joe Morrison did not die from a heart attack, essentially is what it comes down to. I would encourage you to read it. So we're going to talk to JC about that. We're going to talk to him about some different things going on in college football that might make you feel pretty good. The 247 Sports has some interesting stuff out right now, top 25 gigs in college football as far as the top coaching jobs in the sport. Brandon Marcello, who works for JC, yesterday put a column out about optimism dwindling at the Power 5 level. So that is all ahead. We never got to the Pat Mahomes deal yesterday. We're going to get to that today and compare that against some other deals that quarterbacks have and so on and so forth. Ronald Acuna is trying to become the 4th player to achieve something very rare in Major League Baseball. We're going to talk about that today. Official news on the Ryder Cup. We'll get that out in just a little while, and much, much more. On Twitter, at JB and Goldwater, also at Sports Radio JB, at Darren Goldwater.
What's up, man?
Well, I was just on the phone with our friend Mike Morgan.
Hey,
with ESPN on the way over here. We talk for about we every couple of weeks we catch up for about 30 minutes. I would encourage all of you to listen to the JC and Morgan podcast. It's really good.
Been following him on Instagram. It looks like he's been living it up at a beach somewhere.
He's always down in Florida.
Yeah, saw some bull sharks,
yep.
Which he did much more safely than I did once. I was in the water diving when I was passed by a bull shark. But he was at a much safer on a boat distance.
Yeah,
but it looked like fun. I'm a big shark guy.
Yeah, he's always down in Florida with family and hanging out on vacation and stuff like that. Of course, Mike lives in Atlanta, but yeah, he's usually toying around down there when he's not calling baseball, basketball, or football games for ESPN or the SEC network. But yeah, we were catching up about a bunch of stuff today, and I was telling Mike, I said, I have every day a lot to talk about. Like collectively, you and I, with nothing going on, actually have a lot of things to discuss because it's what could or could not go on. So we are always pretty full, and that leads me to this. 6 seconds ago, Brett McMurphy has tweeted out, the Ivy League is expected to announce today that it's moving its football season to the spring. However, sources have told Stadium don't expect the FBS to automatically make that same decision. According to one source, quote, they doubt the Ivies have much influence with FBS schools. They aren't as vulnerable financially, end quote. So, I would echo those comments. I don't think this decision today, if it does move football season to spring, I do not think that the SEC or the ACC or the Big 12 or the Big 10 or the Pac-12 are going to look at that and say, well, the Ivy League did it. We might as well do it.
I don't think they'll jump on the bandwagon right now. I don't think they'll say, on Thursday, July 9th, that the Ivy League did something yesterday, July 8th, and we're going to do it now. I do think, and all of the articles have been leaning this way. Heather Dinich, you referenced her article yesterday. She put out the same thought, basically, that the power conferences, specifically the Power Fives, they're not just going to leap in after the Ivy League. They are paying attention. They are watching it, but they don't have the immediate need to make that decision. They can wait 2 or 3 more weeks before they are forced to show their hand, whichever hand that's going to be moving forward.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So I do think, like what Coach Tanner said a few weeks ago, that the end of this month, at the very latest, the beginning of August, is really going to be when we get some significant news for college football. We're going to talk about some things today that certainly I think are going to play a part of that decision. I was looking over the schedules of every team in the Ivy League to see, okay, who plays an FBS program. I only found one game. Princeton goes to Army in October.
Okay.
And that's it. So if this does happen, Army will lose that game if they don't lose the entire season, obviously, of course. But as of now, Princeton would not be showing up to play football against Army in a few months.
I do think the FCS leagues, like the Patriot League and the Ivy League, they are regularly intertwined. Even other FCS leagues, I do think they will be quicker to follow the Ivy League. It's a financial thing. Plus the games that they'll be losing as certain FCS leagues start to follow, their hand is going to be forced from a financial and a game standpoint. There just won't be a season to play if enough leagues at that level follow suit.
Yeah, that's true. And, the truth of this is, if the Ivy League does do this, if this is true, what Brett McMurphy has tweeted, that they are expected to announce spring football, that doesn't guarantee football in the spring.
No, not at all.
So, I mean, we still have this predicament of, vaccine, and we have to watch and see whether things spike and don't spike and things of that nature. So, it's not like, okay, well, we're going to start on February 10th. Well, that might not be true as well.
That's right.
This would just be a decision to hope to play football again and buy more time to figure out how to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I that's not the most encouraging news. But again, it doesn't, like you and I just discussed, it doesn't necessarily influence or impact anything else.
It's expected news, right? I mean, as soon as the Ivy League announced, it was a week ago, it was July 1st. So last Wednesday, the Ivy League said, in 7 days, we're going to announce our plan for fall sports. Anybody with a feeling of the pulse of college football right now, and the general, not just college football, but sports in general, amidst what we're going through, when an announcement like that comes out, clearly the odds are heavily in favor of something out of the ordinary. Like fall football was probably not going to be the option. At least they're probably saying, our goal is the spring, not let's scrap it like some D3 leagues and a couple D2 teams have already done.
Right.
So at least what the Ivy League is saying is we're still working for it. We still want it. We still think it's totally possible. We just think it's more possible in the spring.
Yeah, I mean, and now, some are going to question whether the Ivy League is making this decision too far in advance. I don't have enough information to question that because, there's a lot that's going into these decisions here. Financials are at the top of the list and alongside safety, clearly. I have a feeling that if it was just a conversation about safety, that we would not already have this decision. I think that they would probably wait a little bit further to see if they could safely accommodate their athletes and even fans if it went to that. But I think that there's another side of this, which is probably financials, and a lot of these schools saying, yeah, you know what? We need some more time to try to figure some of this out.
Harvard and Princeton have both already said, we're not having students on campus in the fall. We're online only. So, look, the Ivy League is first and foremost an academic institution or an academic group of institutions.
No question.
So if schools are not allowing their students and their athletes on campus, then there's no way that they can play football. So I think that is also a large part of it.
Yeah, good point. Really good point. Cole Kubelik did tweet last night some possible good news, I'm quoting him here, for college football. So there are new CDC testing guidelines that have been released. There is what's called a time-based strategy, which is the 10-day period where 10 days need to pass since the date of a first positive COVID-19 diagnostic. And then there's a test-based strategy. And this test-based strategy, essentially what it comes down to, Darren, is that a player could test positive without symptoms, because that is happening all over the place.
Asymptomatic tests and asymptomatic carriers are largely prevalent. They're all over the place.
Right. That's one of the big fears here.
Yes.
Is not necessarily the ones that have the symptoms. It's the one that don't.
Yes.
And we're going, well, now, wait a second here. How'd you pick it up if this guy didn't sit? Well, he had it, but he was just asymptomatic. Well, CDC guidelines have kind of been adjusted a little bit. And Cole Kubelik tweeted this out last night. And basically what this says is a player could test positive without symptoms and then could retest every 24 hours, possibly being back in 3 days with consecutive negative tests. And the PGA actually has adopted a very similar plan. So Wednesday, today's Wednesday, let's say we're in the middle of the football season and quarterback Goldwater tests positive even though he has not shown symptoms. And then they retest him tomorrow and he's negative. And then they retest him on Friday and he's negative and he's good to go. I mean, they'll test him on game day as well, but he'll be good to go. And it won't be the traditional what we have seen. You tested positive, you're out for 10 days. So they can keep retesting. Again, these are asymptomatic patients. Obviously, if you're symptomatic, no, you're waiting 10 days, it's over. Now, obviously, that's not always going to be the case. You could test positive on a Friday and have no symptoms, and bad news, you're out. So, these are all pieces of the puzzle. We mentioned this face shield thing yesterday, and we're going to talk about some of this stuff with JC coming up in a little bit. This is all relatively new and evolving information.
And it relates right now to NASCAR. So NASCAR's doing it as well. Jimmy Johnson had tested positive and has now passed 2 consecutive tests within like a 4 or 5 day span here. So he is now cleared again to race this weekend. So that's the same general idea that Kubelik is talking about.
Right.
That if you test positive and then you can, however it's formulated, come back and then test negative twice, then we're going to clear you. That's what NASCAR's done already here with Jimmy Johnson.
Absolutely. I guess what I'm getting at, and Darren, if I'm not saying this correctly, or if I'm not thinking very clearly here, please correct what I'm about to say. Let's say they decide, okay, we're going to move forward with college football, and I know that this would be very expensive, but if you test, maybe starting that Wednesday, you have to test on Wednesday. You're going to get those results within these saliva tests that a lot of these schools are about to move to. South Carolina is one. Test results are available between 3 and 24 hours. So if you test on Wednesday and you're negative, and then you test on Thursday, and then you test on Friday, and then you test Saturday of the game, and you've got 3 straight tests essentially. 4 if you include Saturdays, but you would want to test that anyways in case something did come up positive after the game so you can notify somebody about it. But if you have 3 straight negative tests, why can't you play? You know what I mean? Like, why can't we adopt that model of we're going to test you every day, basically starting middle of the week towards the football game?
You're saying after say quarterback Goldwater test positive on a Monday, and then Wednesday I'm negative, Thursday I'm negative, Friday I'm negative.
Yeah, and even if not, if you were negative, because you're going to have post game testing as well, because you're playing another team. You're out against other folks that you're not used to being around. You're interacting. So you're going to have to test after the game. More than likely, they'd probably have you come test on Sundays. And then, I mean, it just might be where you're getting tested 4 or 5 times a week. I don't know how that wouldn't work. I mean, you're going to know, right?
Well, ideally. So this is this is very new information in science that's now coming out. So I certainly don't know enough about it. I don't know if the sports world in general knows enough about it. This test right now with Jimmy Johnson, hopefully that goes well and that bodes well. Hopefully if we see some of these occurrences on the PGA Tour of a positive test followed by 2 negative tests within a 24-hour span, that goes well, and then we can learn from that. So that way, if I test positive, I'm not immediately bagged 2 weeks.
Right.
So there's hope in that. There's hope in the science that maybe they have figured out something. Where I have some pause is, I mean, gosh, just who's evaluating these tests, number one? Is it all going to be done on campus sites? Is there going to be one universal site? Is there going to be a universal site for each conference? Because as we've seen in baseball right now, the testing is an absolute disaster. I mean, some of the guys that were tested prior to their first workout are just now getting the test back. That's why multiple teams have paused their workouts, not because of a positive test per se, but because they haven't had enough results come back to say that things are actually safe. So that needs to get buttoned up. And college football needs to be very, very certain. I mean, 100% certain that their testing procedures are buttoned up enough that we're not waiting like this. Because if I take a test on a Thursday or take a test on a Friday, and I don't get that result back until Sunday, and say I'm an offensive lineman, and then I test, well, say I'm anybody, but for the sake of it, I'm an offensive lineman. I take a test Friday. I'm supposed to get the answer in 24 hours, but I don't. Sunday, the test comes back, and I'm positive, and I played in that game on Saturday. That's not going to be good.
Right.
So they have to make sure, and we've got a couple of weeks here to figure this out. They have to make sure that their testing procedures are as accurate as possible, number one, and can, in fact, come back with a result, positive or negative, within the specified time frame.
Yeah, and there's an article that's actually written by a student at South Carolina in the Daily Gamecock about how they're planning to test 40,000 students with a saliva test. And President Caslin actually spoke on this yesterday. And I'm speaking about South Carolina side of it here because this is an example I have close to home. And President Caslin stated that the information he has received is that these saliva tests are actually going to be better than a lot of what they've used, like the nasal swabs. These are going to be, number one, they're going to be quicker and they're going to be more accurate. That's what would be better, and per this conversation here. And so, if that's the case, you're talking about, quick saliva tests, if that's possible for all these football players. I mean, it becomes a part of your It just becomes a part of your daily routine. I mean, that's it. That's just what it becomes a part of. You know, you go to the NCAA and say, look, all right, we have X number of hours to practice every week per NCAA guidelines, but we're going to need you to add an hour to every day because we have 100 football players that we have to test every day, and these are 10 stations. We're going to test 10 players in each station before they even enter the building. And then they're going to go in there and they're going to do their thing, and then those results will be back by the end of the day or at the latest by tomorrow. Hopefully, if it's 3 to 24 hours, that's just more of a lab issue is what that is. But how many can we get in the lab? How many can we get tested in a certain amount of time?
And this is what baseball is doing. They're doing saliva tests. And there have been instances where there haven't been enough people there to actually test, so the players have been able to administer them themselves. It's just, for lack of a more descriptive way of putting it, you're spitting into a cup and sending it off. And so hopefully, again, if you're getting these results in 3 to 24 hours, hopefully they're not getting shipped somewhere. Hopefully you can, like a Petri dish.
Yeah.
Or like a
right
like a pregnancy test, right? Like you either get the line or you don't get the line.
Right.
Something like that. I don't know. But hopefully, once we get to that point where it really, really matters, we've got that part of it buttoned up. Because if we can nail that part, if we can nail the part of getting a very conclusive answer, it's not going to be 100%. We know that. But if the odds are much better than not that it is correct in the answer, and we know that we can get the test back in a very timely fashion, that will go a very long way towards helping us get football off the ground.
Yeah, absolutely. And what that looks like, who knows? We're going to talk to JC in about 10 minutes here about a column that Brandon Marcello, who works for JC Sherbert with thebigspur.com, has written, and that there is, there's certainly some pessimism out there, and there's maybe even this theory that the SEC is just going to, amongst other power leagues, are just going to try to play their league schedule because they don't want to have to deal with the uncertainties of whether, for instance, for South Carolina, whether Coastal Carolina would be able to show up or not, or whether they're going to get a cancellation the day before the game. Clemson, if they had the Citadel come into town and all of a sudden they get a phone call on Thursday night saying, look, we've got 12 positives here. We're not going to be able to make the trip because we need to figure out what's going on. So basically the SEC would say, look, we're just going to play our league schedule. The ACC, they're going to play their league schedule, whatever it is, under the same type of umbrella as far as guidelines go and things like that. I think the common question there is, well, testing is testing, right? Well, yeah, that's true and not true, but like the SEC can more than likely accommodate testing guys essentially every day, every week, as opposed to the Citadel or Charleston Southern or a Furman. Like, you're talking about hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to be able to do this. They can figure that part out. Some of these schools that are at the FCS level or even maybe the Group of 5 level, from a financial standpoint, are going, we can't do that.
Well, think about it.
So
a lot of those schools aren't making money on football anyway.
Right.
So not only would they be farther into the red if they do play because they're not getting concessions and they're not getting tickets and every other dollar that comes in because of a football game being played, they're also spending extra money on testing. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think this Ivy League trickle down is going to happen relatively quickly amongst the FCS levels, and because it's just they don't have the time to figure out where in the world are we going to get this money.
Right. Yeah.
But the Power 5 leagues, you better believe they do because of the TV contracts, because of all of the revenue that they're generating.
Yeah.
They'll take a hit in doing so, but they can rework dollars. There'll be coaches that take pay cuts. There'll be staffers that are furloughed. East Carolina furloughed everyone in their athletic department for 5 days. That just came out. And what that means is every single person in the athletic department had a 5-day period, not working, not getting paid. Things like that will happen, but they'll be able to find the money to test.
Well, and think about this too. If you need more money and fans are either not going to be in ballparks or they're going to be incredibly limited in ballparks, which let's just say today, before I even go further, there was an announcement that all ballparks are open, all season ticket holders are welcome. If you're a fan and you want to buy a ticket, come on, business as usual. Nothing is changing. All right, let's just say that was the case, hypothetically speaking.
Okay. God, that'd be great.
All right, if that was the case, there is still going to be an incredibly large percentage in every fan base that says, "Yeah, I ain't doing it." So you're going to lose money no matter what. Like there are whether you allow fans or don't allow fans, there are still plenty of fans who've already said, "I'm not going." Okay, is my point. Like
that's true.
You're going to lose money. So what I'm saying is there are going to be, because of this crave for sports and because of fans not going into ballparks by their own choice, whether you're allowing them to or not to, there are going to be incredible amounts of eyes on television screens throughout the fall to watch football. I mean, this more than any time ever is where people are going, oh, my God, we need football. Like, holy moly, just like they're doing with baseball. Even if you've, like, worn thin on baseball, guess what? You're still going to watch it because it's sports and you haven't been able to watch it. So if you need the cash, I don't think it's outside the realm of things at all for a lot of these leagues to go to the ESPNs or the Disneys and the CBSs and the Foxes and say, look, if you want the product, you got to chip in to help make sure that the product's available.
Maybe. But the problem is right now these networks are also trying to figure out ways to save money because they're getting hit also. So I don't think the networks are going to be the ones to chip in extra dollars.
But if you didn't have football, it's
going to hurt more.
They would all it would just fold. I mean, it's where are you going to find it? You can't find it anywhere.
Well, I mean, ESPN's not folding. Fox isn't folding.
I meant the seasons. I'm sorry. If these seasons fold, like you're talking about billions of dollars.
Oh yeah,
gone, wiped out. I mean, it's over.
It will cripple certain economies. It will cripple certain towns. It'll forever alter, at least if not forever, for a very extended period of time, alter the landscape of not just collegiate athletics but colleges as we know it. Yep. If there's no football season, that's a reality, and that is why there are so many people working so hard to make sure that does not happen.
Right.
And hopefully they can be successful in pulling that off. I mean, you think of a place like Athens, Georgia, Clemson, South Carolina, State College, Pennsylvania.
I mean, enormous schools with enormous budgets, but small towns.
Yes. And businesses will shut their doors.
Yeah.
I mean, there are dentists in Charleston right now that I've heard of that said, look, if we have to shut our doors again, we're not going to open them again.
Right.
Dentists.
Yep.
They're not short on cash. But if they can't open their door, if they close and can't open them again, they might not be able to open them again.
Absolutely.
So this is a major problem. And what we have to weigh is where we stand here, because are we willing to put lives at risk to save these economies, like children's lives at risk, or young adults, if I should say, to save some of these economies, or look, let's value life over that and then try and figure things out. That's the point we will get to if we don't have all of this stuff buttoned up, because there is such a drive to get football off the ground for economic purposes,
Absolutely.
which is understandable where that drive is coming from.
Economically speaking, football is a major engine in this country, and I think to do this, in order to do all this, there needs to be a real collective effort, if that's what it takes to financially support football in the fall. All right, DB's Cheesesteaks, we support them every day. You should too. It's the finest, tastiest, best cheesesteak in Charleston. DB'sCheesesteaks.com is where their entire menu is available. Don't forget the boardwalk fries. Buffalo chicken cheesesteak is obviously my favorite. You've heard me say it every day for God knows how long. But try the pizza cheesesteak. The original cheesesteak is wonderful. The cheese is actually melted into the meat, which makes everything better.
Don't forget the bread.
And the bread. It's soft and moist, and it just goes, man. Something it's like peanut butter and jelly. It just goes.
But not on a hot dog. Not on a hot dog. Peanut butter and jelly.
No, not Raphael. All right, DB'sCheesesteaks.com, and they deliver, and they're in Avondale, West Ashley. Time for a timeout. J.C. Sherbert, he's up next.
Honey Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Sisko, is just off the interstate and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask. Bottles or Burris liquor stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriot Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
To have a radio station everyone loves.
I love them a lot.
JB and Darren.
I love you, man. I love you too, bud. I love you, dude. I love you, bro Montana. I love you, Holmes. I love you, Broseph Guebles. I love you, Machacha. I love you, Tico Broje.
Okay. Let's continue here on the JB and Goldwater Show.
The strains of Edwin McCain bring us back at 12:32 on this Wednesday afternoon, July the 8th. The JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everywhere. At JB and Goldwater on Twitter, at Sports Radio JB, at Aaron Goldwater, and also at JT Sherbert. He joins us now from Chicago, Illinois, the owner of BigSpur.com as part of the 24/7 Sports Network. What's up, brother?
Good to be with you guys today. Appreciate the Edwin McCain. I got a text from my friend the other day that said, if you're from the upstate and Edwin McCain comes on the radio, you can't change the channel. And I thought about it, and I was like, well, I have before. But, I guess it's if I heard it now, though, up here, I definitely would. I'd probably blast it. People like, what's that? Is that a song about a beef sandwich? Like, no, it's Edwin McCain down from where I'm from. But the beef sandwiches are delicious, Phil, or whoever. So, anyway, good to be with you guys today.
Edwin's a good man. He was on our program, I think, the first week we were on the air, actually.
Yeah, something like that.
Mm-hmm. I've had him when I did a show in Columbia, I had him on, or no, it was Greenville. I had him on as a guest. Clemson Carolina week, me and Greg McKinney, and we talked to him about the rivalry and some things like that. It may have been the second time I've talked to him, but he's a good dude. And
yeah, he's funny.
Certainly, his music is epic and legendary for those of us that are, in our 30s and 40s.
You and Edwin would probably get along quite well because your sense of humor actually matches, to be honest with you.
And I can sing and arguably sing just as well. I'm kidding.
Arguably.
I'm sure it is. I'm sure it would be a good deal. So big fan of his and appreciate the intro. This morning, I go on to Tuscaloosa right every Saturday morning. And I usually have Dave Matthews Band as my intro, but they got a new producer. And this morning it was some like emo pop song with heavy piano. And I'm like, is this what you got? Is this what Wimp Sanderson thinks of me? Like Wimp got on, like, let's just play some emo pop, okay? When JC comes on, we want to hear some emo pop, And I'm like, oh my God. So I'm gonna have to get on him about that. I
can hook you up, or JB can put something together with some Dave Matthews. We can do that.
Oh no! I'm fine with whatever. Just know emo pop. It kind of threw me for a loop and depressed me. Of course, we talked about a lot of depressing topics, so maybe that set the mood for that particular segment.
We will we'll get to some COVID stuff and things like that in just a little bit. Obviously, waiting on the Ivy League's decision today, which won't have much impact, at least temporarily, on the Power Five. But I do want to hit on a couple of Gamecock topics with you. First of all, the passing of King Dixon. There's Darren yesterday. Of course, Darren didn't grow up a Gamecock fan like I did, so he didn't know much about King Dixon. But I'm going to tie this into something that one of your fellow colleagues, Josh Kendall, wrote a really incredible column in The Athletic about Joe Morrison. But King, of course, has a legacy at South Carolina. He passed away. You know, what I want to bring up with you, though, is if you ask one fan about King Dixon, it's very negative. If you ask the next fan, it's, yeah, he was a good guy. What is your impression of King Dixon, not as a player at South Carolina or as a Marine, and he was a really good guy, but most notably as an athletics director, he did see the Gamecocks into the SEC.
The worst athletic director in program history by a mile.
There you go.
Now, that may not all have been his fault, because athletic directors have to answer to presidents and boards of trustees and things like that, but you just sort of look at it. I'm beyond shocked they got in the Southeastern Conference under his leadership. But you want to talk about somebody that didn't know what they were getting into. I mean, the entire apparatus at the University of South Carolina just didn't know. I read the column. I thought, the talk about, well, he was going to fire Joe Morrison. Well, why did that take until February? The Liberty Bowl, Gamecocks played in it in late December. Plenty of time to fire him between were they waiting on recruiting? I was a little younger then, so I don't remember how the recruiting calendar actually worked. I mean, so they were going to fire him. Well, when? That's late. He died on February. I still remember my dad coming in and waking me up and telling me Joe Morrison died. I'll never forget where I was at when that happened. But, you look at it, King Dixon, and they didn't get into this in the article because it was – and I mean, look, I'm a good person, and the guy just died. So I'm going to try to be respectful here. But the facts of the matter were that, you look at they ran George Felton off, who was 25 games over 500 as a head coach, and, had 4 returning starters coming back for their first year in the SEC. There's this massive search. Larry Brown is interested in the job and goes to meet with King Dixon about it. And King Dixon sort of just blew that interview by telling him, oh, we don't want some basketball coach around here making all this money and all this stuff. And Larry Brown was like, all right, well, I don't really have to even be here. He was interested in the job. Everybody from Rick Barnes to Eddie Fogler at the time, who I think was at Wichita State. They weren't getting Crimmins after they fired George Felton unceremoniously. And so you spin the wheel of coaches and you land on Steve Newton.
Yeah.
That was the worst hire in basketball. I mean, that makes Darren Horn look like the Steve Spurrier hire in football.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was that much of a disaster to hire Steve Newton, who's probably the worst basketball coach the Gamecocks have had in the modern era. Well, then you flip it to football now. Let me just say this. Sparky Woods doesn't deserve enough credit for the job he did at Carolina, because he walked into a tough situation with the death of Coach Morrison, the steroid scandal. He worked hard. He recruited. But, you look at how that search went down. You had Mike Gottfried interested in it. Dick Sheridan, who should have been the coach like 3 or 4 times, walked away from the gig. So it comes down to Jimmy Satterfield, who just won a national championship at Furman, who's a Carolina alum, and Sparky Woods. And they went with the one that was cheapest.
Yes, they did.
And that happens at South Carolina. We kind of eat our own at times and miss opportunities. And I don't know how good or bad Jimmy Satterfield would have done at South Carolina, but he just won a national championship at Furman. And if you're going to hire the guy from App, why not hire the guy from Furman who's one of your own? But and he actually, if you look at some of the coaches that were on that staff at Furman, it was a really good staff. But, Sparky's staff, when he got to South Carolina, the offensive coordinator had to go sell Amway after practice to put food on the table.
Right.
That's how that, and you think of the money in the sport now, but even compared to the money in the sport then, there was no money. I mean, they weren't spending money, and by God, they were bringing it in. I mean, at the time, the stadium was packed. So, for those reasons, his hires were sort of a disaster. And Mike McGee, who had some things about his tenure, and of course the late Dr. McGee as well, he had some things that were not so good either, like didn't understand facilities.
Right.
But he hired his way out of it. He did hire Ray Tanner, did hire Steve Spurrier, eventually hired Lou Holtz, hired Eddie Fogler, did get a basketball arena built. So, when you're making a transition like that into the toughest athletic conference in the country, you've got to have a plan to compete. You can't just show up. And so as an athletic director, I think most of us that kind of know the facts understand that while King Dixon's a legendary Gamecock and we all owe him a debt of gratitude for his service to our country and, great human being, outstanding person. It may not have been all his fault that he failed miserably. I think you can chalk his athletic director tenure up as a miserable failure at South Carolina, and one that set the programs back probably by 3 or 4 years, making that transition into the Southeastern Conference.
Yeah, it's very well said. I mean, and again, I would encourage folks to read Josh's column, because generally when you write a column about what if, it's what if a positive. This is a what if negative. What if he didn't die? Would he have been fired, essentially? But it is you have to read it to understand what I'm saying here. I think, JC, a lot of people, and Darren, I don't know, I'm sure you've heard about the steroid scandal at South Carolina in the 80s, but I don't think a lot of people, look, especially this new generation of students, essentially, that you get in Columbia, where the large majority of them, I feel like, are from your neck of the woods, Darren, Pennsylvania, or God knows where else up there.
I'm from D.C.
Whatever. They don't know a lot of this history. I mean, is that time, that the Black Magic, the Fire Ant defense, that's when 2001 was created under Joe Moe and the man in black, and of course Muschamp's out there in black too, but he says it's to make himself look slimmer.
Yeah, that's not true. I don't think.
I don't either.
I think somebody told him about Joe Moe, and if you notice, Will Muschamp was paying attention during that era of South Carolina football.
Absolutely,
Muschamp was in junior high and high school during that time.
Yeah.
So, you kind of notice the throwback uniforms. He remembers Sterling Sharp and all those great players. Todd Ellis from back in the day, although, that's kind of when I came up. My first South Carolina football game was the '79 Hall of Fame Bowl in Birmingham, and I House of Horrors, just like it is today. I was too young to remember. My first home game was the '83 Notre Dame game. Gamecocks got beat. Mm-hmm. But I remember that next year, my parents were going to the games, and they'd come back. I didn't get to go to any games that year. And they came back, and they had little Orange Bowl stickers because, in '84, South Carolina, had they not lost to Navy in Annapolis. And I have a friend now actually up here in Chicago that owns a bar that was on that '84 Navy team. And Napoleon Kaufman was their best running back, or Napoleon McCallum. It was either McCallum or Kaufman. Anyway, they had a really great running back, played in the NFL for all of them. He was actually hurt. Navy's best player was out. South Carolina's players set up all night playing cards and stuff because you did that back then. Mm-hmm. And I think that the inevitable hangover took the Gamecocks down, and they won that game, as the Patrick Davis song so eloquently puts it.
Yep.
They're probably going to the Orange Bowl and playing for all the marbles. And that was South Carolina's chance because Georgia had won it in '80. Clemson won it in '81. Here comes Carolina in '84. Imagine the difference in that program had that happened. Regardless, we move forward to the '87-'88 era. They had a down year in '85 because a lot of guys were academic and eligible. And '86 was hope. They're 3-6-2. They played Nebraska off their feet. They played Georgia off their feet. And it had not been for a fumble rule change that year, they'd have beaten Georgia on a miraculous boneheaded play by their quarterback, Wayne Jackson. Time has moved quickly on me here, guys. I used to remember all these guys' names. But Todd Ellis was a true redshirt freshman. Gamecocks really tight. They had a tie game against Clemson that was really good. And then in '84, they were a top 10 team, almost knocked off Miami, which won the national championship. You go to '88, and they're rolling. And for some reason, they were rolling with a guy named Al Groh as their offensive coordinator. Al Groh, that's his only year of ever coaching offense.
Right.
I don't know how this happened. They go to Virginia Tech. They come back. They win a close game, and then the steroid story broke.
Right.
And the game, I'll never forget. I was a kid, and we always listened to sports talk radio. I'll never forget Phil Kornblut and Don Williams coming live from the Marquis Marriott in Atlanta. That's when you listen to games on the radio. Tommy Suggs and Bob Fulton were talking about how the Gamecock fans had the Georgia Tech fans, outnumbered at Grant Field that day. Bobby Ross was the coach there. That was a 3-8 Tech team. It's 31-0 Tech at halftime. Final score, Tech 34, Gamecocks nothing. Carolina did manage a win over NC State when Todd Ellis shot pistols into the stands, but they lost 59-0 to Florida State. They were not competitive. A 29-10 loss to Clemson. They did beat Navy that year. Hooray. and then went to played Indiana in the Liberty Bowl, got their butt kicked, and that was that. That team that year was good enough defensively, in my opinion, and had enough weapons on offense with Robert Brooks and I think Carl Platt, Eddie Miller, those guys, to where I think they could have won 10 or 11 had that scandal not broken, because they just maybe they don't beat Florida State or Clemson, but man, that losing to Georgia Tech like that, and then especially the Indiana loss was brutal. So it was kind of a question of what if. But Sparky comes in and has winning seasons back to back, and they turn down 2 bowls, and then they go in the SEC, and the rest is history. So that was a very tumultuous time for the Gamecocks. You mentioned Joe Morrison and bringing the magic back to the program. I think he was kind of the first guy that made South Carolina unique. I don't want to sit here and the article kind of made it sound like he was the godfather of Carolina football. Well, there was a coach named Jim Carlin before him that coached a Heisman Trophy winner, did have Carolina on the national map in the early 80s. I do think Joe Morrison, though, is kind of that era was the foundation of a lot of what we see today that makes Carolina a unique program. Before that, there wasn't a whole lot. Oh, it's South Carolina. They win the tailgate, but that's about it. You talked about 2001, Man in Black, the imagination. His schemes were very creative. I mean, he was just a guy that Gamecock fans loved, and they'll always embrace him and always respect him. And as time has moved on, just like with the ACC era, there are less and less fans because Carolina's been in the SEC now almost 30 years, and it's been a while. It's a shame that kind of gets lost.
No question.
But that happens at every school. Every school, every college program, every professional program, as years go by, certain things get lost a little bit, get forgotten, because it's an era coming up that you didn't much know about. I got to Penn State in the late 90s. I didn't know much about their successes in the 60s or much about their successes in the 80s until I actually dove into the subject. It's just natural progression.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's it's a positive thing in the sense that at some point you look at South Carolina, it's not like they're pining for the good old days in football or anything, but it sucks sometimes when you got you have that game against NC State and Charlotte and really especially the North Carolina game last year, the lack of respect for what that game means or what it used to mean historically.
Yeah.
And I think it's worse at South Carolina than any other schools because look, Auburn and Georgia Tech used to be big rivals. Okay. They signed a 2-game deal. Auburn fans fill up that stadium in Atlanta, and Tech brings their crowd down 85 as well. And they want to beat the hell out of each other, even though they only play twice in 30 years. Clemson and Georgia don't play all the time. I'll use Auburn, Georgia Tech more specifically just because Georgia Tech's not always that good. Well, neither is NC State or North Carolina, but just the venom about how Carolina shouldn't even be playing these guys when you got a nice neutral site set up in Charlotte or whatever is disappointing, because I know if it were 1989 and the Gamecocks were playing the Tar Heels or Wolfpack anywhere, it'd be packed and there'd be a lot of enthusiasm for that particular contest.
J.C. Sherbert, owner of thebigspur.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. If you're not a member, you should be. You don't have to pay until August, and so now's a good time to join thebigspur.com. Let's take a right-hand turn here. Some new CDC guidelines. Darren and I just mentioned this in the previous segment that saliva swabs could be used, and you might be able to, if you test positive one day, let's say you're asymptomatic, JC, and then you come back the next day and you're negative, and the next day you're negative, you've got consecutive negative tests. The PGA Tour, NASCAR adopting these policies. Now you take this conversation towards college football. We're going to get an Ivy League decision today, although I don't think that'll have a lot of impact on the Power Five. We have this article out about these face masks that could cover the entire face shields that could cover the entire face mask. Are these enough positive trends for us to still feel some optimism towards college football season?
No. And I wish I felt differently. And I think it's because the whole thing's gotten politicized. I mean, you scroll through Twitter. I mean, these people that they've changed their profile picture with a picture of them in a mask.
Yeah.
Sad. I mean, and if one of you guys has done that, I apologize.
No,
we have not.
No.
For the love of God. I mean, and you can tell when you see somebody with that mask avatar, they're the mask police. They're the mask Gestapo. They're the COVID's going to kill us all crew. They're the let's shut everything down. And quite frankly, most of them probably live in their mother's basement. And that's fine because those people deserve a voice as well. And I mean, and then you got the Karens of the world that say the same thing. I wear a mask. You're going to kill us all. Don't touch my fruit, And you're in the grocery store and you maybe forgot your mask. Pick up a piece. Don't touch that fruit. Oh my God. You're dirty. You're dirty. I'm like, well, I just got out the shower and for some reason I smell swordfish. We're not in the seafood section. So anyway, that's the thing with that. But you can tell the types. But it has gotten really political, and colleges are run by school presidents who are mostly bureaucrats, and quite frankly, most of the athletic directors now are too. And you mentioned the Ivy League. Now, should the SEC and ACC and Big 12 or Big 10 care what the Ivy League does? Absolutely not. But the school presidents will, because those are their peers. And to them, the Ivy League is the SEC. To them, it's like, oh, Columbia and Dartmouth and Princeton. I mean, they get really excited about that. They get fired up about that.
Mm-hmm.
They go home and they love it. They get a lot of excitement with thinking about the Ivy League. And so you have to remember who you're dealing with, and that fundamentally the school presidents run college athletics, which is unfortunate. I kind of think we need a college football czar, so I wouldn't completely dismiss it. Now, most of the sources and reports have been saying, Ivy League's not going to matter. This face shield thing's very interesting. My question is, are you going to be able to breathe in it? Because it kind of looks like the cone of shame that I got my dog one time.
Yeah.
And he could not breathe, looked so uncomfortable and couldn't breathe. So that would be my question there. But a lot of guys do wear those face shields already. So if you just cover up the mouth, and I don't know, maybe that works. I like the testing deal because I do think a lot of what we have as everybody's sitting here counting cases and some of the media people who, honestly are probably will have the mask in their avatar sooner or later. They're counting case numbers like Scrooge McDuck counts coins. They're like, 10,000, 10,950, 51, 52, 53, and they're causing mass hysteria with these mass numbers. And some of them, as we found out through the testing, are these guys asymptomatic, test positive one day, negative the next 2 days, you're fine.
Mm-hmm.
And so if they do adopt something like that, I do think that will make some people comfortable. But keep in mind too, guys, there is a narrative out there, an overarching narrative with national college football writers, not all of them, most of them, that believe that college athletics is inherently evil and unfair to the student athlete. They never talk about the 97% that don't go pro, that have tremendous opportunities working in athletics and in other businesses, and it's all because they played the sport and they got some notoriety and they got it all for free. Nobody talks about any of that. They talk about the things like, players need to get paid and chunk of the piece of the pie, whatever. And that's fine. That's a fair discussion to have. But they're so militant about it, and their beliefs are so entrenched, which shocks me because it's a sport that puts food on the table for them. Some of them a lot of food because they're paid very well.
Mm-hmm.
They almost seem like they wanted, like their job is to tear down the entire game, based on their very narrow view of what's fair in terms of financial compensation for athletes. And they're going to take this COVID thing, and they've already got the article written. See, I told you, they don't care about the student athletes. See, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care at all. And there's no attention paid to anything else other than that. And so when I read things like Brandon Marcello from 24/7 Sports reported that there's a lot of public and political pressure that's going to factor into this, those are the types of people I'm talking about, is that they're going to get the Karen of the world stirred up, and they're going to turn it into this big political thing and ignore science and fact, and really not even weigh the positives of the sport. And these presidents, guys, that they, like I said before, they still think it's the 1920s, and everybody's going down to the quad to play a football game, and you have your leather sweater and all that. I mean, and maybe in the Ivy League it is, but college football has transcended that, folks. It's an economic engine for communities. It's a massive fundraiser for universities. It's a massive fundraiser for communities and states. And the purpose of a college isn't to hand out degrees or have a great, women's studies department or a great theater department or a great biology department. The overarching purpose of a university is to benefit, especially a state-supported university, to benefit the people and the community in which it exists. And college football is part of that, and it does benefit and enrich the community in which the university exists. So all this talk about, if we don't have students, we're not going to have football, is asinine. 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 I did a Nick Saban there, because you're talking about 30,000. I've said this before, 30,000 college students versus football. And so that's another shameful part of it, is they're still hiding behind this, it's your students and all that. And so I added all that up to, knowing who we're dealing with here, knowing who's out there chirping the loudest, knowing, the lie that they continue to spill about what college football actually is. I'm less confident we start on time now than I ever was. And I pray to God there's at least a season by the spring.
Talking to JC Sherbert, owner of thebigspur.com. And I am going to pose this for you, all right? So we launched this show, JB and Goldwater, in the midst of this pandemic. My other job, if it still exists, is a play-by-play announcer for college sports. I, as much as anybody, need and want college sports to stay on track. However, the upcoming football season, I'm worried about, not from a political standpoint. I am worried about it from a safety standpoint, because the science is pretty clear. The science is saying that this thing's not under control, and we don't have quality testing measures yet, although we do have good ideas, and we are trying to enhance these ideas and improve them, and we still have a couple weeks for the more, the Power 5 programs in order to nail these down. There's still a possibility. But if that's not there, then am I willing to sacrifice potentially the life of one kid so that the sports can come back? And my answer to that is no, unfortunately.
No, Darren, I completely agree with you. I mean, you don't sacrifice a life, even one life, for this. I mean, I know people talk about the mortality rate, which is down. And no, I don't think that's good at all. And look, I don't think that there's anything about the season that's going to be fair or make sense.
No.
I think that what you have to do is you have to manage it, if you're a program. And I think that your chances of managing it are much better when, I think your chances of keeping your players healthy are much better in a college football environment than these kids spread out at home. They come from different homes, different neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Some of their neighborhoods have been, hit very hard by the coronavirus. Some of them don't have access to health care when they need it when they're not at school. There's a lot of things about it, so I'll take my chances with that. Now, do you need to run a kid out on the field when he's tested positive? No. Does he need to be quarantined like everybody else? Yes. Are there going to be teams this year that lose their entire starting whatever because they have to be quarantined? Yes. Are we going to see some crazy results because of it? Yes. But the point is, you got to play. Now, I don't think you necessarily have to start it in September. And on the flip side of all this, I'm not totally against moving it to spring at all. I think the point is get it in. Now, there are like football reasons to not play in the spring. Okay, football, like, the top players are not going to play. They're just going to go straight to the NFL. That's true. But you know how many college football fans are not going to watch because Trevor Lawrence is not going to play for Clemson this year? And how many Clemson fans aren't going to tune in to watch him? Zero. Right. Because college sports is about the name on the front of the jersey, not the back. And look, if you got to start your fourth team quarterback one game, who cares? It's fun. Maybe Western Carolina beats Alabama because of it. Who cares? You played. And that's what's important, and that's what people want to see. And so that's my point. Now, I'm with you totally about safety. There does not need to be a situation where we sacrifice the life of anybody.
Right.
Coaches and players, period. Coaches are well-paid adults, and they can judge their risk how they see fit. But you don't want somebody dying over this. I mean, that's the truth. I'm not like Dr. Death here, but I do think there are a lot of you look at, I read it every day, literally, guys. I read a study about this virus, and every day it's something completely different.
Yeah.
So I mean, we talk about the science. I don't even think the scientists have a good handle on it right now, and I think for that reason it's scary. But for that reason as well, how are people supposed to make hard and fast decisions?
Yeah, it's we still have not much, but we still have a little bit of time here, and folks much smarter than I'm gonna lump you into this conversation. Although you're a smart guy, JC, people much smarter than the three of us combined. I hope are going to make some good decisions. I'm with you. We need football. Not just from hey, we're used to having football. We need it. We love it. We need football for reasons that Darren and I mentioned in the previous segment, for economical reasons. This is a true fabric of America as far as keeping things on track. There are economies that will it's over. If you don't have football for 1 year, it is over for many businesses. It's done.
I'll take it a step further. Not just businesses, but athletic departments. People look at the money these programs bring in, and they do bring in a lot of money. But you got to look at the balance sheets too. They spend just as much as they bring in. There's no millions of dollars in a rainy day reserve. Okay, you're looking at a situation too where you're going to start talking about eligibility. Okay, if you miss the entire 2020 football season, you're going to have to let guys out of their scholarships. Some schools are not going to be able to afford the athletic scholarships, and they're going to say, okay, you're all free to go. You're going to have some Power 5 schools, I believe, drop the sport.
Yeah.
You're going to have complete coaching staffs furloughed or getting fired with like a head coach and one at like Wally Rigendorf from Necessary Roughness sitting there trying to put it all back together. And we're talking major programs the size of Clemson and South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
You miss a year of the money coming in, and it's over. As far as we know it. That's why, hey, look, I understand the football purist, aspect of it. Well, the good players won't play. And, it just doesn't seem right to have football in the spring. I understand that aspect of it. And quite frankly, I'd side with you a lot over than the Karens and the mask people, a lot of the time. But I am adamant that this season has to be played. And if it has to be in the spring, hey, look, the Alliance of American Football was working out pretty good till they ran out of money last spring. And, I don't think any of us are going to sit there and go, I don't want to watch college football right now. Let's turn on something else. I think that we'll all be fine.
College football in the spring will have a far greater success than the AF did. Far greater.
And unfortunately we're pretty much out of time in this segment, but one of the things I know there is a group of people that don't want to see that, and that's college baseball coaches. You know, but that's for another day. Right now, we're just focused on trying to get football in, whatever it looks like. Maybe it's a conference schedule. Maybe it's the spring. Maybe it's the whole thing. Who knows?
And I'll say this too about baseball coaches. Like at South Carolina, you know, you have 80,000 people coming down for a football weekend. You know, if you schedule it right, you're going to have a big crowd Friday night and probably a big crowd Sunday for your 3-game SEC series.
I agree.
Now TV may get tricky, you know.
Right.
But you know, I'm with you there, and it's going to be a lot to kind of work out if it is moved to the spring. But that's just my hope, is that play it in spring without, you know, if it's between that and cancel the whole thing, just play it in
Absolutely.
spring. I don't think anybody will mind.
Don't want it in the spring, but if we have to have it in the spring to not lose it, no doubt, play it in the spring.
Yeah.
I think we're all right there. It's just like when the whole thing started. Like, I don't want to play without fans, but okay, if we have to play without fans, I'll play without fans.
Yep.
Yeah, you sacrifice to go. You know, you're like, yeah, okay, you live with what you can live with. But Darren, I agree with you. What we absolutely cannot live with is anybody dying of this because they were taking part in college football and should not have been.
Mm-hmm.
That would be something to where that would put a black eye. I mean, you talk about the people that, you know, want to damage the sport now.
Oh,
I
man,
mean,
yeah.
You're talking. It would be terrible. It would be awful.
Luckily, you're not. That's why you're on every Wednesday at 12:30. We always appreciate your time, brother.
Thanks so much.
Keep up the good work, and good news. We're going to do this again next Wednesday.
All right, looking forward to it, guys. Y'all take care.
Thanks, man. There you go, J.C. Sherbert with the BigSpur.com, owner, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Time for a timeout. More football and some baseball to get to on the JB and Goldwater Show. The national anthem, though, up next.
Baked Ham in Somerville and in Mount Pleasant is your home for catering and lunch. Honey Baked Somerville, owned by former Gamecock right-hander Mike Cisco, is just off the interstate, and they are ready to cater to your next business or family meal. Plus, drop in for an incredible sandwiches daily for lunch. The Mount Pleasant location is at the foot of the Ravenel Bridge and always ready to serve and cater to your next meals as well. Plus, delivery is available. Honeybake.com to find your menu today.
What's up, guys? It's JB. Obviously, things have been kind of crazy with the coronavirus taking over our lives. We're stuck inside with family, finding ways to be creative and probably tapping the liquor cabinet a little bit. If you don't have Patrick Davis's Whiskey Jam in yours, put on your mask and gloves and head to Bottles or Burris Liquor Stores here in Charleston. The Blackberry is my personal favorite on the rocks, but the original Whiskey Jam is Patrick's. So either way, you're winning with Whiskey Jam. WhiskeyJam.com, PatrickDavis.com.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon. Hi, I'm Chris Half, Public Information Officer at the Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum. We're home of the mighty USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, Clamagore, and Vietnam experience. And we're a proud partner of the JB and Goldwater Show. We invite you and your family to come see us and enjoy a day on Charleston Harbor. Visit patriotspoint.org for more information. And now, it is my honor to present the national anthem.
live, loud, and online.
.110, welcome back to the JB and Goldwater Show, live, loud, and online. Welcome into hour number 2 by the National Anthem, presented every day by our friends over at Patriots Point, one of the finest museums in America, patriotspoint.org, holycitydrivein.org, if you would like to take your family to one of their drive-in movies, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sunday evenings here in Mount Pleasant over at Patriots Point. You can see the Laffy, the Clamagore, the Vietnam War exhibit, the Yorktown, and a whole lot more at Patriots Point. And, again, if you've never been there or actually been on any of those ships or in any of those, some of them are memorials, some of them are museums at Patriots Point, like the Medal of Honor Museum that is on the flight deck of the USS Yorktown. It is something to see. It is just something to see. That's all I'll tell you over at Patriots Point. So check them out, patriotspoint.org, for tickets, information, and a whole lot more.
And we do have our tickets to give away. So what's today, Wednesday?
Yeah.
Maybe tomorrow or Friday.
Okay.
We'll give away our first set of tickets to go check it out for yourselves.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that would be fantastic. On the Podbean app, is if you're listening there, thank you. You just download it and listen for free every day. And if you want to watch us, you can do that. YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. You can do that for free as well. At JB and Goldwater on Twitter, at Sports Radio JB, at Darren Goldwater as well. All right, do have some breaking news to open, which is a late hour two, because we did hold J.C. Sherbert through the top of the hour.
That's my breaking news music for this.
Yeah, it's not good. Stanford has officially announced, this is an open letter from stanford.edu to everyone, that they are cutting and discontinuing 11 varsity sports programs at the conclusion of the 2020-2021 academic year, which would mean they will play, if they can play, this fall and spring, and then that's it. These are the sports. Men's and women's fencing, field hockey, lightweight rowing. Again, this is all Olympic stuff here. Men's rowing, co-ed, and women's sailing. Squash. They have a squash program.
That's pretty cool.
Synchronized swimming, men's volleyball, and wrestling, which is probably the biggest of all of those there. At least it would be to me.
And field hockey as well is pretty big.
Yeah, field hockey. I'm sorry. There you go, field hockey. So 11 have been cut, and they consist of more than 240 student athletes and 22 coaches. And combined, by the way, of note in here, more than 4,000 alumni who have contributed to 20 national championships, 27 Olympic medals, and a bunch of other academic and professional achievements. But those 11 sports, no more at Stanford at the end of this coming academic year, that just sucks.
It's awful. What JC said is very, very true. You know, if there's not the revenue brought in from a football season, because as we know, most other sports, almost every sport does not make money, it loses it. The majority of football programs lose money as well, but not in the Power Five. We're going to see more. We will see more and more of these cancellations, and because of my background, when I see this from Stanford, I think two things. I think, number one, here we go. Even though it's not the first, but it's a huge thing. Stanford, UCLA, a lot of those Pac-12 schools are long known for their just dominance in some of these sports. And I think number two, the Pac-12 network is already fledgling, and that's a very positive way of putting it.
Yeah.
And there are presidents right now. There's a rumor that they're looking to buy out the commissioner, Larry Scott, before the next round of television deals come about, because he's the one that put him in this predicament. And if, in fact, he's the one overseeing the next television round of negotiations, they're certainly not comfortable with that. With this announcement, I mean, that these networks thrive, particularly the Pac-12, thrive on some of these Olympic sports because they need these sports to fill their time. For a network like the Pac-12 that isn't aligned with ESPN, this is really bad news if this becomes a trend for the Pac-12. And then not just the network, then it's the entire conference, because while they're not making the money from the network that other conferences are, they are still making money. And if that network can't survive and can't kick them enough money, more programs fall.
Yeah.
So this is a bad domino to go.
Yeah. You'll see more of this. You will see a lot more of this if there is no football season, which it just adds to what we said a minute ago. They got to play. When they play, how they play, all that type of stuff, they're still working it out. But they got to play. All right, here's some other news as well. Northwestern, they have announced that their game against Wisconsin on November the 7th will not be played at Wrigley Field. That game was scheduled to be played at the home of the Chicago Cubs. They didn't say it won't be played. They just said that the game won't be played at Wrigley Field. Obviously, that's a Big Ten matchup. So that they're going to move that game to either home ballpark, I'm assuming, as long as football season is able to kick. But they will not play neutral site Wrigley Field in that one.
That makes sense, because if they're going to play, the safety precautions, the procedures that are in place aren't going to be the same that are in place at Wrigley Field. So if both of the schools, wherever it's played, they'll have a plan in place that they will have been using for quite some time by the time the game comes about. Why throw a wrench into it and go to Wrigley? As cool as it would be, it won't be as cool without fans anyway. So
No, it won't. It sure won't. Some good news yesterday from Notre Dame. No positive tests at Notre Dame, and again, we're still waiting on an official announcement from the Ivy League, which is expected at some point in time today. And Brett McMurphy has hinted that he thinks the Ivy League is going to move their football season to the spring. So we started the show off with not so good news there. But maybe Notre Dame can carry the light for us a little bit, so to speak, today. 0 student-athletes tested positive during their July 1st test date. Notre Dame has tested 252 football players and staffers since returning, and there was only one positive test. That was prior to July 1, and, of course, that player recovered just fine.
Some of these northern schools, add Notre Dame to the list. Boston College had really good numbers. Penn State had really good numbers. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, some of these northern schools are having better results of their tests than other schools like Clemson and LSU that have, and Alabama, that have released their tests too. There could be plenty of schools that are having similar success that aren't releasing numbers as well.
Also from Brett McMurphy, due to Patriot League COVID-19 guidelines, Fordham has canceled its first 3 football games versus Central Connecticut, Stony Brook, and at Hawaii. That sucks. Can't make that trip. No, son of a. But now they're slated to open the season September the 26th at Monmouth. So again, a lot of very contradicting, conflicting, whatever you'd like to call it, information out there. But we're trying to get the good and the bad to you as it comes to us, whether it's relevant or prevalent at all to our discussion here in the state of South Carolina or not. These are the facts.
Yeah, and these are all. They're all related. Whether or not we're saying it's within this state or the Southeast, it's all related because all of the athletic departments are watching what's happening around the country. So everything's related.
Pat Mahomes is a rich man. We didn't get to this yesterday. You've probably heard so much of this, so we want to make sure we at least touch on it here. Pat Mahomes, of course, has signed a 10-year extension, which is 12 years ultimately, on his contract, over $500 million, which is the largest contract in the history of pro sports in this country. Wow. Of note, only $141.4 million is guaranteed, okay? And remember, so people are comparing these contracts, Darren, to other quarterback contracts. Obviously, people are now looking specifically in this state here going, what's Deshaun Watson going to get? Is he going to stay in Houston? Which God help him if he does, because they haven't blocked for him in 2 years. He might not have enough body parts to play football if he stays behind that offensive line for another 30-something games. But so they're starting to look, okay, well, how does this project for future contracts? Watson, Dak Prescott, guys like that. I'd actually, we can talk about that, but I don't really compare this contract to other quarterback contracts. I compare this to the Trout deal because Trout signed a 12-year deal for $426.5 million. Baseball is guaranteed. Mike Trout is guaranteed $426 million.
Yeah, just look at Bonilla. The reason he's getting what he's getting is because he had a little bit left, and then the Mets made a bonehead move.
Right. Baseball is the only league that guarantees everything. So while Pat Mahomes' numbers look substantial, and they are, and could it play out to where he receives all $500 million? Absolutely. Mike Trout right now still has the better gig because he's guaranteed, no matter what happens, he could test positive for COVID-19 for the rest of his life, and he's going to make $426 million.
So this is actually as insane as a $500 million contract sounds as a team-friendly deal. It's a team-friendly deal because they may not have to pay it all. Mahomes could also, as you and I were speaking yesterday, they could get halfway through this thing and they could renegotiate.
Yeah.
They could play with the numbers a little bit more. I also look at it just to have some fun with the $500 million because it comes down to $140,000 a day. A day. $140,000 a day for the next 10 years. Most 99% of Americans are never going to make $140,000 in a year.
No.
Right? He's going to make it in a day.
Yeah.
Every day for 10 years.
That's it's absurd, and there is always a group of people out there that says nobody is worth that amount of money. Not true. Know why? Because the market is worth that amount of money.
That's right.
If you are in insurance or you are the local trash man in your community, I don't care what you do, and someone says, hey, I want to offer you a 12-year deal for $500 million, you're going to take the deal. You know why? Because they think you're worth that amount of money.
And the money
That's what's great about America.
And look, you just won a Super Bowl. How much money did that bring into Kansas City? I can't sit here and tell you, but I can tell you it's many hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
And if he can do it again, that's the same thing. Did you hear how this news broke?
I don't think so.
Adam Schefter did not break this news. A young lady by the name of Katie Camlin. Let me make sure that Katie Camlin sent out a tweet 90 minutes before Adam Schefter. Katie Camlin works in a liquor store in Kansas City. A member of the front office of the Chiefs walked into that liquor store and bought 6 bottles of Dom Perignon. Said there's a signing today and it's not Chris Jones. So she assumed it was Pat Mahomes. So she throws out on Twitter, Pat Mahomes is signing an extension, or I don't know exactly what she said, but something to the effect of the Chiefs are about to sign Mahomes. She took it down because she didn't know if she was actually allowed, if she was breaking some rules or something. But she was right. So she scooped Schefter by about 90 minutes because she works at a liquor store. She's a diehard Chiefs fan, and someone from the Chiefs front office went in and bought 6 bottles of Dom Perignon.
Hey, somebody there just for blanks and giggles needs to give her some season tickets or something.
Yeah.
Like, why not? I mean, why not? Good for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is really, I had no idea. That is that might be the most interesting note we've had on this program in quite some time.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, we'll see if she can break it when he renegotiates. I think he will renegotiate. I think he'll renegotiate. 2025 is the year that there's a lot who think that there's a lot of media members, folks who study these deals and things of that nature, that think that that's the year that they're going to go in and renegotiate this deal. And here's why. Because other top QBs in the league, and that includes recently drafted quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, will have renegotiated by 2024 based on what their contract says. So if you're comparing the top quarterbacks in the NFL based on their contracts, a lot of them come up for renegotiation prior to 2025. So what he's hoping is, hey, I need one or two of these. I need to keep playing well, one or two of these guys to really play well and go out and get a big deal, and then he can go in and renegotiate if he would like to do so. Obviously, that would be on his terms. I want to renegotiate my contract. If not, then he'll just play out his deal with Kansas City. Also of note, though, prior to 2025, major television rights deals are due with the NFL. CBS, Fox, ESPN, who knows what those will look like, but we do know this. It will be substantially more money because of inflation in the sport. It always goes up.
The college rights are coming up too. All the conferences.
Absolutely. I mean, CBS is out with the SEC game of the week. We already know that, and more than likely that's going to be Disney that picks it up. Probably plugs it into ABC. But
they have. That's done.
It's pretty much a done deal.
It's a done deal. It's just a matter of when, because
they might buy out CBS for a year or two, right?
Right. Exactly. But the deal is done. It's ABC, ESPN. It'll probably the SEC primetime 3:30 will probably just slide to ABC, and then whatever else comes with the CBS part will probably go to ESPN, stuff like that.
Well, similar situations more than likely coming in the NFL in the next 3 or 4 years. And when you have why does that matter to Pat Mahomes' contract? Because it will change salary cap. Salary caps will shift. Percentages to salary caps will shift. So there will be more money going to players, which means more money going to top players that drive that TV revenue. So he could theoretically come in 4 or 5 years with the Chiefs after maybe some new deals are done as far as on the field, and then obviously television contracts, and say, okay, this is now what the cap looks like. This is the percentage that I want based on what this guy got, based on what percentage of cash our market is getting, and things of that nature. That all goes into this stuff, things that I can't even comprehend. But I actually I don't think that he'll play this out just the way it's written now until 2032. I think that he'll be 6 or 7 years prior with a new deal.
Yeah, it's just fun to play with the numbers.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Or depressing, whichever way you want to look at it.
What we should have probably done is, what can you buy with $500 million? Like not like cars and stuff like that, but like
a team.
Like can you buy an island? Can you buy an airline? Can you? I mean, like what if you're like, I've got $500 million. I have all the houses and cars and junk that I need. What can I just go buy that someone doesn't have?
You're gonna have to go make it. You're gonna have to go design your own yacht, your yacht that complete with a couple helicopters and a couple other boats and some jet skis.
Yeah.
And
can I buy an island in the Bahamas or something?
Probably.
I would assume so.
I know you can buy islands. I don't know what they go for. So I'm not in the market.
There's people. I know someone here that owns an island here.
Yeah,
I'm not going to say who that is.
Are they developing it?
No.
Oh, okay. So it's just your private island.
They just own the island.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
Can you make money on it?
I mean, I'm sure they probably could.
You got to have to develop something to make money with it.
Well, either that or
sell it,
or you can be the Intercoastal Waterway here. So if companies have to come, dredge the waterway, they could always use your island. They could essentially rent it from you to spill mud and sand and everything that you dredge with.
All right.
I'm just thinking outside the box, but anyways. Yeah, so I mean, we really don't need to spend a ton of time on that. You can find that information anywhere and everywhere, but it's just fascinating. That's a good story that you just told, and it's fascinating to think that A, he's worth $500 million, and B, what that contract actually looks like when you dive into that contract. I compare it again much more to Mike Trout. I don't know if there will ever be. I think baseball has screwed some of these other leagues, because you think about the number. Like, think about people like players like Mike Hampton.
Okay,
Mike Hampton. What did he ever do for Atlanta?
Nothing that's really going to ring a bell.
No, that doesn't ring anything.
Yeah.
He did nothing. He won like a few games.
Yeah,
but he had a fully guaranteed contract because of baseball. All these other baseball has been doing this for a long time. All these other leagues, if that ever comes up with like a players association, they'll be like, forget it. We'll fold before we fully guarantee. Especially like in football, you could go out there and end your career tomorrow, by stepping on someone's foot. I mean, forget it. We're not fully guaranteeing anything. Hockey, hoops, no, absolutely. We'll pay you a lot of money. Okay, but we're not fully guaranteeing contracts. Baseball screwed everybody in that.
Yeah, it's true.
Different sports.
But that's also why you see guys, multi-sport athletes, every now and then, like, I'm going to go baseball. That's why Kyler Murray had a decision on his hands. Is he going to go in the A's organization, or is he going to go into the NFL?
Right.
That's why Jeff Samardzija went to the Cubs when he finished his time with Notre Dame. I mean, there's logic there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, we're going to get back on track. It's 1:30, so we're going to hit a quick timeout. We do have one segment to go. Usain Bolt, his daughter has a name that is incredible.
The greatest.
Maybe the greatest name in the history of the world. We're going to tell you about that. Ronald Acuna Jr. is trying to join some incredibly elite company by doing something early in his career. We're going to tell you about that as well. Official news on the President's Cup and the Ryder Cup. If you haven't heard, we'll dish that. And the hot seat is out for college coaches. Dennis Dodd with CBS does this every year. He ranks which coaches are on the hottest seat. And I'll tell you where Will Muschamp falls on that list as
I didn't
well.
see that article. I saw the top 25 jobs.
There's the top 25 jobs.
Yeah.
And we don't have the time to really get into all that today. We'll do that more tomorrow. I have some discrepancies with that column.
Yeah.
But the hot seat numbers are out.
Okay.
So we'll tell you, Will Muschamp's on the list. We'll tell you where.
Yeah, I would imagine.
So it's a packed final 30 minutes. Hang tight. We'll be right back.
DB's Cheesesteaks, the tastiest, juiciest, and now award-winning cheesesteaks in the Low Country. DB's Cheesesteaks delivers, and not just in quality. Download DoorDash, Uber Eats, or your delivery app of choice and have it dropped off at your doorstep. Original chicken, buffalo chicken, even pizza cheesesteaks, not to mention incredible cheeseburgers, massive hot dogs, and dynamite hoagies. It's all there for you and your family. DB's Cheesesteaks in West Ashley. dbscheesesteaks.com.
At Patriots Point Naval and Maritime Museum, families walk in the footsteps of our nation's heroes, the brave ones who risked their lives to defend our way of life. Home to the aircraft carrier USS Yorktown, USS Laffey, and the USS Clamagore, there's more than 1 million square feet of exhibit space to roam. White Glove certified, we have several new health safety measures in place to enhance the visitor experience. Come for the day and leave feeling inspired. One of the most impressive museums in the country, located right here in Mount Pleasant. Visit patriotspoint.org for more. We'll see you soon.
This is Scott Glaze, head golf professional at the links at Stono Ferry, located on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina. I'm inviting you to tee it up on one of the most scenic and challenging courses in the Low Country. Our back nine is highlighted with 3 holes that border the Intercoastal Waterway. Visit stonoferrygolf.com to book tee times and discover all that Stono Ferry has to offer. The links at Stono Ferry is a former South Carolina Golf Course of the Year and is also home to the College of Charleston men's and women's golf teams. Come see us. We would love to have you. stonoferrygolf.com.
The JB and Goldwater Show.
That's so because we play this.
And there are these guys in the band on stage bouncing on trampolines, and one of them is playing a vacuum cleaner on his face. It was the greatest thing I'd ever seen. This band was going for it as hard as they could. I've never seen anything like it. And I said to the bartender, I was like, who is this band? Oh, this is a band from New Hampshire called Fish.
1:33, final segment, July 8th, a Wednesday afternoon. It's an off and on rainy day here in the Low Country. More rain expected throughout the week, and also a tropical storm is about to develop right off our coast, but it will not impact us at all. Brush right out into the Atlantic, and it'll be gone. So what JC was saying earlier with certain media members, I feel the exact same way with certain media members when it comes to weather. Oh, my God, it's the 5th tropical storm. Dude, it's not going to touch anything.
It's the rain we got yesterday.
Just leave it alone.
It's the rain we got yesterday.
It's just never happened before. We've never had 5 of them. Like, yeah, okay, but it's gone.
I'll say this locally. There are a lot of guys who are really good.
We have great local guys.
But Dave Williams at Channel 4 and his staff, and Rob Fowler at Channel 2 and his staff.
So good.
They do a great job.
And they're Dave, Rob. Well, I know Rob's on vacation. Dave, if you're listening, I told Dave this last year. He was on when I was on ESPN. We had a hurricane coming. I had him on my show for I think the 2nd or 3rd time, and just to try to prepare people, just like this.
Yeah.
Here are the facts, guys. Listen to what I'm saying. Don't freak out. Okay? If you need to evacuate and things like that, still don't freak out.
Yeah.
Here's how this works. I mean, I've been through this my whole life. I mean, I live. We were here during Hugo. People think I don't remember. I remember everything about Hugo. I heard someone the other day at our daycare going, "This is going to be the year that like the worst hurricane ever hits." I'm like, nah, that already happened. Happened over 30 years ago. Okay,
look, it better not be worse than that.
let me tell you something. That already happened. We're still rebuilding from what happened to Hurricane Hugo in the Tri-County area over 30 years ago. Believe it or not, I not believe that. yes, people are still rebuilding.
I believe that. I've known Dave for a long. When Dave moved
Dave's
down
great.
here, he moved down for a job as a co-host of a show called Low Country Live, which my wife created, produced, and was hosting.
Right.
So I've known him for
He's a great guy,
since
man.
he came down here from Conway. Yeah, he's
Dude,
awesome.
Sonia's brother lives across the street from me, but I tell you that he's my neighbor.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I see her. Every
Is he in the
so
news business too?
often. Oh no,
No, he's
no.
smart. He's smarter than
No,
us.
no, he's in the
Okay.
fishing industry.
Okay.
I saw him on the 4th of July. I could tell he'd been fishing all day. He's a crazy.
He's been fishing.
Blake's a great guy. He's a great guy. Usain Bolt's a pretty good dude too. Just had a daughter. Congratulations, Usain. Big follower of our show. We appreciate that.
Yep.
Beautiful young lady with an amazing name. I mean, she's going to do something great in life, right?
She better.
Olympia Lightning Bolt.
How awesome is that?
I mean, really? Olympia Lightning Bolt. I'm sorry, Riley and Hannah. Daddy really screwed this up. I should have done something better.
Well, it wasn't your fault. Your last name's not Bolt.
I should have changed it or something. I had to figure something out. This is crazy. Olympia Lightning Bolt.
It's awesome. It's one of the greatest names I've ever heard. Yeah. I mean, aside from celebrities who name their kid like Apple, whoever did that, you can be weird.
Or like Northwest.
Yeah. So
is that Kanye West? Yeah, Kanye.
And Kim Kardashian maybe is
there's
a North.
It's like Northwest and then like Southwest or something. Yeah.
So you can go name your kid something weird so that you can be weird, or you can take advantage of your name and give your kid the blessing of a lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
Olympia Lightning Bolt.
Yeah. Olympia Lightning Bolt.
Well done.
Yeah. Eric Church, he has 2 sons. He named one Boone.
Boone Church.
Like Boone, North Carolina. So
Yeah.
it's Boone Church. Second son, Tennessee. Tennessee Hawkins Church. I think they call him Hawk. I think
That's one of the most southern names. Tennessee Hawkins Church.
Tennessee Hawkins Church.
Yeah.
And Boone, I don't know what Boone means. Boone McCoy. Boone McCoy. The only reason, look, I was reading an article.
There's
he's got an album coming out.
There's a 4-year-old 5 houses down named Boone. I know another lady whose nickname is Boone.
Boone McCoy and Tennessee Hawks. Attaboy, Chief. You do whatever you want, man. I support you. All right. I also support Ronald Acuna Jr. Hopefully he'll play forever. And if they ever add the DH in the National League, he will. I think this kid is certainly the next Mike Trout. I think he's going to be a Hall of Famer one day. He's got it all. I know guys who played against him. Corey knows him very well. We'll have Corey on actually either tomorrow or Friday to talk about a bunch of this baseball stuff. He's a stud. He's a good kid. He plays for the right guy. Brian Snicker is the perfect manager for Ronald Acuna Jr. because he's a player's coach, but he's also going to hold you incredibly accountable. And you saw that when he yanked him out of the ball game last year because he didn't run out a double. Mm-hmm. He should have been standing on second base, and he was standing on first. And they lost the game because he would have scored. And he yanked his butt out of there. They literally pulled him off first, or didn't send him back out of the dugout. That's what it was.
Yep.
Well, Ronald Acuna Jr. is attempting to be just the 4th player in history to total at least 80 home runs and have 70 stolen bases at 22 years of age or younger. And in his career, 2 years worth.
In his
which
year.
is actually a year and a half, really. A year and 3/4. He's hit 67 home runs, and he's stolen 53 bags. And last year, he probably should have stolen a couple more. He was 3 stolen bases shy of 40-40 last year, if I remember correctly. But if he's able to do that, he will join a list of just this is amazing. Alex Rodriguez, Mike Trout, and Andrew Jones. Now, A-Rod's numbers are just crazy, but Ronald Acuna Jr. might actually have been able to top those numbers if this was a complete season. A-Rod, by the time he hit 22, had hit 106 home runs and stolen 97 bases. Mike Trout, 98 home runs, 102 swipes, and Andrew, 80 home runs and 74. And again, if Ronald Acuna Jr. can accomplish that 80-70, he's going to need to hit 13 home runs in this 60-game span this year.
That's doable.
And steal 17 bases.
Also doable.
Very doable. And I think he'll do it. You know what his goal was? Ozzie Albies spoke about him in spring training before it was shut down. Somebody asked him a question about Ronald Acuna Jr., and Albies said that his goal this year is to be the first player to go 50-50. He wanted to hit 50, and he was going to swipe 50 bases, and he had the green light. Anytime he got on base, he was running. And he said, and Snecker apparently said, "You got it, kid.
If you're going to do it while you're young, that's the time to do it."
Yeah,
that's absolutely the time to do it.
Do it. A-Rod, I think ultimately A-Rod's going to end up being in the Hall of Fame. I know that he took the juice, but I still think he's a Hall of Famer.
I hope so, because if A-Rod gets in, then there are other guys who are going to get in.
Others will get in, yeah.
But A-Rod has reshaped his image.
Sure, certainly.
Unbelievable. I mean, the 180 A-Rod's been able to do is really unparalleled in the sports world.
No, well, look, he is the media now. He might be a team owner before long, and he has made friends with the media, which is very important these days to get into the Hall of Fame, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Trout's going to be a Hall of Famer as long as he stays healthy. There's no question. And Andrew Jones should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Andrew Jones should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't understand. I don't understand. People spin this argument every time when but he only, his career, he only hit, 260 or whatever. I'm like, oh, for God's sake. He won 10 straight Gold Gloves. He hit over 500 home runs. I mean, the dude is a Hall of Famer. He is, in my opinion.
Yep.
Not when I say this, because I tweeted this before, and they go, "Not Griffey? Did you not consider it?" No. I'm talking about defense.
And your opinion.
In my opinion, quit arguing with me. He is the best center fielder of my generation. In my opinion.
Yep.
Pure center fielder. He's the best center fielder these eyes have ever seen.
That's fair. Because that's a fair opinion to have.
You can name other guys like Edmonds and Griffey. I think those would be the three.
Those are the three.
At this point in time that I would have.
Of our generation, yeah. Those are the three. So you can pick one, and that's your opinion. Great.
It's Andrew. If you are one of those guys of your generation, one of the very best, how on God's earth are you not in the Hall of Fame? I don't know. I don't know.
He should be in. You've made a case very convincingly to me before.
Golly.
I think he should be in before Dale Murphy, and I can ruffle a lot of feathers with that one.
Well, you know what? I actually, look, there's a generational gap there because I didn't grow up with Dale Murphy, although I understand Dale Murphy, and I think Dale Murphy should be in the Hall of Fame. But I'm with you on that, and again, these are our opinions and our opinions only, that what Andrew Jones did in his career is much better than what Dale Murphy did in his career. Now, two generational, they're different players.
It's different.
It's different. I get it. But if you said, all right, pick one of these two today, okay, well, it's Andrew. Now, if you said pick one of these three, those two plus Fred McGriff, man, I don't know. I think I'd still go with Andrew, but Fred McGriff should be in the Hall of Fame too.
Best commercial of all time.
I mean, the guy hit 497 career home runs, and had they not shortened the season in '94 because of a strike, which he had nothing to do with, he would have hit over 500. He's in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Talking about 3 home runs, go keep Fred McGriff, like a career 300 hitter out of the Hall of Fame. Come on, man.
Wonder if that commercial hurts him. Just because it's almost like a gimmick.
I would think it helps him.
I would think, but it just right then in my head, I was like, maybe it's just so funny and we've all seen it 8,000 times.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right, Dennis Dodd does this every year. The 2020 hot seat rankings, the hot seat rankings this year obviously is 2020. So he's got 11 college football coaches with their jobs on the line this season, and Will Muschamp is in this column. So Dennis has done this forever. I'm a love-hate guy with what Dennis puts out there. I think he's incredibly negative sometimes, and then sometimes I'm like, that's pretty good. But that's what these guys are here for. Judge on your own accord.
It's his opinion. It's his version of Andrew Jones.
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. But it is worth talking about because I don't think that the names are on here are wrong. And I'm a Will Muschamp fan.
Oh, yeah.
But I do think he should be on this list. And Will, if you asked him, he probably wouldn't respond to you. But deep down, he probably knows he needs to win as well. So here's how he does this. He gives you a 0 through 5 rating. If you're a 0, it's great. You're untouchable. If you're 5, win or be fired. 4, start improving now. 3, pressure is mounting. 2, all good for now. And 1, safe and secure. Here are his these are his 5 ratings.
So his like total hot seat.
Yeah, like you better win or you're out.
Yep.
And win is like you need to win. You know, like not like 7 and 5. Like
Yeah.
you need
like
to win. You need to win games.
9, 10, 11.
Yeah, you need to win some games. All right. I'm gonna. Well, Randy Edsall. We're not going to talk about it. Absolutely. I mean, come on. He's at UConn. They suck. We all know that. He needs to win a bunch of games. He's not. He's
not even the problem.
This,
but yeah,
this shouldn't even be. He shouldn't even be on the hot seat. He should be like, look, the seat's been ejected. It's up to him to try to find a way to pop the parachute and get back in the plane. You know what I mean?
UConn is.
Dana Dimmel, UTEP. We're not going to really discuss that. Here are the other ones though. Derek Mason at Vanderbilt, and I agree with that. I like Derek Mason, but Derek Mason is 10-38 in the SEC, and he's been there for 6 years. That's awful. Vanderbilt, though, and we don't have enough time to really get into this. Maybe let's jot this down and try to get a little bit back more into it tomorrow. I just really question their commitment to major athletics. I mean, it's disturbing to me. I know I was on my guys trip in May, and they did make the first black female athletics director in the history of the SEC hire back in May. Stacy, Stacy Story, I think is her last name.
Okay.
We'll see. We'll see how it all goes with her. I think she's been around. She knows what she's doing. The reason I say we'll see how it all goes is because I don't know what type of support she gets from the rest of the school, and I don't, quite frankly, think Derek Mason gets a ton of support.
So I'm not going to take you way off track of the hot seat thing here, but yesterday what Vanderbilt did proves that point. I mean, Vanderbilt abolished its sports athletics communication office.
I mean, now more than any you need that office.
Let me tell you something. There is no position more important in college athletics than the sports information office. The sports information office.
And they should be paid more, by the way.
Oh, my God. They need way more money and way more help. They're the ones who not only are they giving media information, which is the obvious stuff, right? They help us, and to an extent, the average fan knows that. To an extent, they know, but not nearly to the extent that good SIDs are valuable. I mean, you just can't comprehend what type of work a good SID does. They're the in-between between reporters, beat writers, TV, radio, and coaches and players. The coaching staffs rely heavily on the sports information departments. I mean, they're leaning on them nonstop. They're badgering them because they need stuff from them. So without a sports information department, then the coaching staffs are going to have to do more.
Right.
And that's going to take away from time doing things like, coaching, recruiting, doing things that they need to do to win. It's a incomprehensible move from my viewpoint, from a lot of people's viewpoint, what Vanderbilt just did. They try to kind of wrap in their athletics with their academics in a different way than everybody else does because they're like a Ivy League of the SEC type, I guess.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, so is Northwestern and so is Stanford. They don't do this crap.
No, nobody does. Nobody does.
It's ridiculous.
Nobody does. And when you try and cover a team that doesn't have a good sports info program, because everyone's got somebody, but when you try and cover one that doesn't have a good program, it is immensely more difficult. And then the byproduct of that is your coverage of that team seems slanted because you don't have as much information. You don't have articles in the newspaper to go back to because the school's not pitching stories.
Right.
You don't have information from bios because they're not available. So then it seems like you're doing a game and you're all for one team when you're using the information that you got. Vanderbilt they're cutting their you-know-whats off by doing this. It's a terrible move.
It's a terrible move. It doesn't help Derek Mason, and he's going to have to get to a bowl game this year, I think, to save his job. And I don't, per our predictions last week, I don't think that he will. He's got Scott Frost as a 5. Scott Frost has not been back at Nebraska very long. I don't know that is fair to Scott Frost. I mean, Nebraska's in the Big Ten. It's a difficult league. This is not the Nebraska that Scott Frost played for. This is a rebuilding job for Scott Frost. And if Nebraska fires Scott Frost, if he is truly a 5, and I know last year was not good for the Huskers, but who are they going to go get that cares more about the program than Scott Frost?
Scott Frost cares about that program. The problem right now is they have lost 16 or 18 guys to transfer. So there's some type of issue that I don't know what it is.
I don't know,
but a lot of guys are name guys they need are bolting.
But I don't know that that's a bad thing. That just might be his way of getting it the way he needs it so they can go win games. I mean, he proved he can win at Central Florida. I mean, guy can win.
Fair. So then I'll say fair that he's a 5. Because if the perception is, what's going on, man? Like, why are all these guys leaving? If, in fact, it's a good thing that they're leaving, then go ahead and go win. Maybe it's a 4 instead of a 5 for him, but go ahead and go win.
There's a lot of named guys that left Florida when Will Muschamp got there, and he had to do it to clean out that program.
I'm not disagreeing with that.
You know, I don't think he's worthy of a 5. I think that's putrid, to be honest with you. Now, these next two, boy, L.A., Chip Kelly and Clay Helton, both 5s. Dennis Dodd says the outcome for Helton may be football not even being played this year. Look, I think there's a rebound of sorts this year for the Trojans. I think they're better than people want to probably give them credit for. Players wanted Clay Helton to stay. He stayed. We'll see if it pays off. Chip Kelly, he's lost 17 games in 2 years at UCLA. Should he be a 5? Probably per the standards of what you need to do to be successful in the Pac-12. I guess so. It is a desirable job, so there probably would be good names who would want that job. I think, though, similar to what you just said, it might be more along the lines of, is that program fit for a guy like Chip Kelly? He's an interesting coach. He's an interesting person. Does Chip Kelly fit? Would be more the question. I think he can win there, but can he get the players to play for him?
Yeah, it's an interesting. LA's an interesting place with, and he's an interesting guy. They're on different ends of the interesting spectrum.
Yeah,
So the blend to me doesn't fit very well. And Clay Helton, the players wanted him to stay like Orgeron, and LSU wanted Orgeron to stay, and that worked out. So maybe this does work out.
Maybe. On to the 4 list. Philip Montgomery at Tulsa, Kevin Sumlin in Arizona, which, I don't know that I would yet with Arizona. It's going to take some time for Kevin Sumlin, who has proven that he can win at Houston. He proved that he can win at Texas A&M at least early in the year. Generally late in the season, they would skid. But he's got Dennis Dodd has him as a 4 in this list. And these others are interesting to me. Manny Diaz at Miami, I would not put him in a 4 category. The guy's been there for 1 year. I mean, come on.
That was my next question. Like, have you been there for a year?
I mean, come on, man. I know it's a winnable division. I get that, but come on.
Like you need time.
Yeah,
you need some sort of 3-4 years.
I mean, come on. Yeah, exactly, Darren. This whole theory that everything can just happen within 2 years is ridiculous. Tom Herman, well. Similar to Miami, he's in a recruiting hotbed. Texas and Miami are great places to get players, and so maybe that's part of the speculation here. These guys, it shouldn't take them long to rebuild, but I'd like to give you a little bit more time. Tom, now though, he's been there a few years. I do think that they need to step up and win some games. I don't think they can go in and have a losing record. I don't think that'd be good to Tom Herman. They just need to play defense. If they can play defense, they'll be fine. If they can't play defense, no, they won't be fine. But at the top of this list of 4s, he does have Will Muschamp. And here is what he says about Will. This is Dennis Dodd with CBS. Going into year 5, the Gamecocks are 1 game above 500, coming off 4-8 season. At only 48, Muschamp has already been in the NFL and with 4 SEC programs, 2 of them as a head coach. Takeaways 11-2 his season at Florida in 2012 following Urban Meyer, and Muschamp is 43-44. He's also 3-19 against ranked teams since 2012. That number certainly has to improve. And of that 3-19, just 2-13 at South Carolina. Those 2 ranked teams last year, Georgia, and if I recall correctly, the Outback Bowl, January 1, 2018, in which they beat Michigan, that 2017 season they went 9-4. He says there's plenty of potential, perhaps just not at South Carolina, which sees Florida, Georgia, and maybe also Tennessee pulling away in the SEC East. The buyout is $13.2 million after this season. Last year, he had him rated at 1, which was safe and secure. But obviously, after a 4-8 record, Dennis Dodd seems to think start improving now for Will Muschamp. I agree with that.
Yeah, it's fair.
I agree with that. Much more than I agree with some of these other ones, which I think are rather ludicrous. He does actually rank every hot seat ranking for every coach of 130 FBS teams. You could probably guess where Dabo is. 0, untouchable.
Oh, he's not a 5?
No. I agree with that, and we can probably hit on this a little bit more tomorrow if you'd like as well. But start improving now, in my opinion, does not mean 5-7 after 4-8 or even 6-6. No, you got to go bowling. And you, once again, like I said last year, the Georgia game, I think, actually saved Will Muschamp, even though they were 4-8. They beat Georgia. You're going to have to win another game you're not supposed to win this year, if not 2, to get to 7 wins anyways. So, does that come in the form of another upset over Georgia? Does it come in the form, we already talked about this on Friday, of finally beating Texas A&M? You're going to have to improve on that versus ranked teams record. Do you beat Florida? Will Muschamp's already beaten the Gators at South Carolina. He could beat them. They should have beat them last year. Or could have beat them last year. I'm not going to say should have. That's a stretch. But certainly could have. Had some things been a little bit different. So, yeah, he's got Will at a 4. We'll see. But I don't disagree with that.
You've been pretty open about saying it, as much as you do support him. And
I totally support Will.
Right, and think very highly of him, and for many, many reasons. The facts are he does have to win some more games.
He's got to win.
Yeah.
And he knows that.
Absolutely.
He's got to win games.
That's right.
He's got to win games. All right, before we get out of here, what day is today on the National Day calendar? It's everybody's favorite segment. Oh, this is a good day.
Athletic budget. So if he's going to change coaches,
it's okay.
It's going to take 10 to 12.
Yeah, well, I got something playing here.
Is that Dennis?
Yeah. So
Dennis is trying to usher in our National Day calendar.
There we go. I got him gone.
All right, so we got 2 days today of note. Well, there's only 2 days anyways. Happy National Chocolate with Almonds Day.
Absolutely.
Big fan of that.
Dude, the Hershey's bar with almonds? Come on. Things better.
And I'm a big fan of those greatest candy bars. They used to drop them off in people's offices. You pay $1 to get a candy bar.
Oh, yeah.
Those are really good. World's greatest chocolate or whatever.
Yeah, whatever they. Yeah, yep.
Really good.
Yep.
So celebrate with one of those. Also, I need to get some of these. My kids would love them. Happy National Freezer Pop Day.
Oh, absolutely.
American tradition.
So don't make the mistake, and fortunately for you, your girls are younger, so they probably haven't seen or at least don't know every word to Frozen and Frozen 2. I bought frozen popsicles for Grayson the other day. They are the size, there's, 15 or 18 in a box. They're the size of your pinky, and they're gross. So don't buy those.
Okay. I won't do that. I won't do that. But I will buy some freezer pops.
Yeah.
Hannah, Riley, if you're listening. You better be napping, but if you're listening. Happy National Freezer Pop Day from Pop. Also, happy National Chocolate with Almonds Day. Tomorrow there's one day, and it's a sweet one and a good one.
Sweet as in dessert sweet, or sweet as in good?
No, Santa would like this.
Okay.
And then also on Friday, it's a good day to kick off your weekend. So I'll tell you about that when we get there.
That's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Kick off a weekend strong is always a good thing.
No question. Covered a lot of ground today. One thing we did cover, we'll cover it tomorrow. Michigan head coach Jim Harbaugh doesn't think playing sports will make the COVID-19 outbreak worse. There's much more into that. So we'll have that on the agenda tomorrow.
We didn't touch on Deshaun Jackson.
No.
We don't need to go into that.
Not really.
We may not. In defense is what it is.
Yeah.
1,000%. The apology is a joke.
Stupid.
Deshaun Jackson standing up for him and saying he speaks the truth is also in defense.
Just ludicrous.
Ludicrous,
man. Thanks to J.C. Sherbert joining us in extended time today. And Darren, thank you for your hard work as always.
Thank you, man. Driving the show.
We do have Scott tomorrow, and either Corey McCartney or... Yeah, Corey McCartney joins us tomorrow as well.
Sweet.
So it'll be a good day. Thanks for listening and watching JB and Goldwater Show. Back tomorrow at noon.